Well, it's the morning after yesterday's over 9-hour marathon rains here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Well, we're up bright and early as usual in spite of all of that. But welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
And this may not be the times for ease and comfort for a lot of Nigerians, but these are certainly the times for daring and enduring, the words of Winston Churchill. But you could also add kindness to that mix. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
So no matter what's going on around your area, I hope you're hanging in there as strong, yet again, as strong as you can. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Usamu.
Well, it's important to dot the I's, as they say, and cross the T's. There's meant to be like a checklist, what you do in times of flooding. By the way, I should just say that this is not the peak just yet, guys.
We're just getting started, by the way.
The peak is usually October, and we're still in July. So I think it's important to bring out that checklist and just tick it. Have I done this as a government? Have I done this as a people? And this morning, a huge chunk of the show is dedicated to all of that. But let us know how you're faring, really. It's been quite a very, very interesting past few hours for a lot of people. As soon as I saw a little drizzle this morning, I went, not again, you know, sort of that post-traumatic stress disorder thing. But thankfully, the weather is calm. It is cool, actually, so we don't know. It's important to actually stay ahead of what is going on. So that's what we're all about this morning. But guys, how did yesterday go for you?
It was a deluge, you know, really for most parts of Lagos. And it's curious that even bridges are getting flooded. There was an overflow reported on Owuronshoki end of 3rd Mainland Bridge, and also, you know, on this side of the divide as well, on Lagos-Badagry Expressway, there's always a deluge along just before you get to Wawa on that bridge. And, you know, it leaves a question mark really on, you know, the drainage system, perhaps underneath the bridge or on the bridge itself, you know, that can empty water and, you know, give free passage to vehicles. You know, so that was the situation yesterday. And there were also reports that a child may have been feared dead as a result of a building collapse, which is also, you know, by extension, a result of the flooding from yesterday. There were reports that, you know, Lekki was submerged. What's it like? Tell us exactly what the situation is like if you're on the Lekki end of Lagos. So that was yesterday. Yesterday was pretty serious as far as flooding was.
I think it's a collective responsibility at the end of the day. We have our role, the government has their role, and as much as possible, every hand must be on deck to make sure that this is minimized. I don't know whether it can be stopped, to what extent it can be stopped, but it has to be minimized as much as possible, because when property and lives, property destroyed, lives are lost, it's no longer a child's play. So as much as possible. And that's why we're bringing the conversation to the fore this morning on the program, because everyone has a responsibility. Rains and water and all of these things I call nature's wrath will always be there. What we can do to minimize its impact is absolutely what is necessary for all of us at the end of the day. So whether you're government, a community, an individual, what role are you playing to make sure that when these things happen, and as Bukola would say, deluge happens, you're ready and prepared so that the casualty will be as minimal as possible. But to sit down and feel that the rains will not fall and everything is going to be okay, I think we're just lying to ourselves at the end of the day. There will always be rain. Always. There will always be sunshine. So let's not act surprised. It's painful when we act surprised. It's going to happen.
And it's instructive to add, you know, to what Kayode said about how we're not yet in the peak yet. And, you know, just to observe also that, you know, what we learned in secondary school as weather patterns has pretty much been altered in the last few years, perhaps as a result of climate change, rising sea levels. So we may not get that August break that we usually got in the years past.
When was the last time we got August break?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was trying to
The rain is not
break.
going on holidays anymore. Rain,
yeah.
literally.
So we must be prepared.
If you want to know what is going on, all of the latest information, stay with us right here. We have all of the angles from government to solutions and all of that. We're big on this because this is a major environmental issue. They say Lagos is just about a meter plus above sea level, and that is bound to change in the next few years. So let's get right into what we have for you on the show this morning. It's a no-brainer the biggest talking point leads on the show this morning. And it's understandable because all eyes are on Lagos after yesterday's, well, call it marathon rains and the resultant flooding of major areas in the commercial capital city. But what more could government and the people, what more could they have done to prevent or mitigate the negative impact of this inevitable rains? We'll find out on the show this morning as some count their losses and hopefully prevent reoccurrence.
And that's not all. Another consequence of the weather is the food crisis. And for those asking how soon will the price of food items drop in the market, which is all of us by this rate, well, we're bringing you behind the scenes for more, like taking you to the farm to see what exactly is driving our food prices beyond the roofs and how to fix that.
Well, it's not going to be just serious talk. We're going to talk to a young man, find out what reality is showing this reality superstar who is trying to chart a path for himself and build a brand outside the confines of former housemate tag. So beyond all of that, Eloswag joins us on the show and will definitely be saying more than hello to this young man who packs a good dose of swag.
Absolutely. So here's what we'll do. You have to join us on this show. There's a seat for you, and this show is not complete without you. And how can you take that seat and even do more than that? Head to your social media handles right now, #CTV Morning Brief. We're big on the floods, absolutely, but we're also not losing sight of the price of food and other items, particularly in the face of some of the rollouts of policies of this government. So #CTV Morning Brief, send us your videos, or you can do it on WhatsApp easily. Just take a video, upload it, send it to the WhatsApp number, which you'll see on your screen any moment from now, and tell us the location, okay, where that flooding happened, particularly where you are, the location, and any other information you want to put out there for either the government or even the people. We're big on feedback right here on the show. So you see the WhatsApp number coming on from time to time on the show. Come on, let's do this together, shall we?
Absolutely. So,
We shall.
You ready?
Are you guys ready? Well, the morning brief starts officially right now with the top stories. Now, these are stories that will be shaping the conversation today and in the coming days. Stay with us right here on the morning brief. The top stories at this hour as residents of Lagos State try to pick back their lives and get back to business. So the Lagos State government is calling for calm over the flooding experience throughout the state and even in neighboring state, Ogun State, yesterday. Business and commercial activities were grounded following the 9-hour downpour in many parts of Lagos. The resulting flood grounded vehicular movement on the roads and overwhelmed thousands of residents, while students could not attend schools in parts of the state. And reports say a child is feared dead after a building collapsed at 10 Cameron Street in Mushin, Lagos. But in a statement signed by the State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, he attributed the flood to the rise in level of the lagoon following the rainfall, coupled with heavy rainfall from previous days and weeks. It therefore calls for calm and responsiveness from the people. And as we keep our sight on the flooding situation in Lagos, particularly the solution for the floodings that will definitely come in the coming days, we turn our attention now to security, as the Nigerian Customs Service appears to be on a streak, as it has again seized assorted arms, drones, and military accoutrement worth 1.5 billion naira exported from Turkey again, but this time in Lagos State. Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, disclosed this at the Murtala Muhammad Area Command Office of the service. Given more details, he said the command, acting on intelligence from local and international collaborators on June the 19th, deployed its personnel to man all the exit points around the airport. He said analysis of recent seizures showed that some unscrupulous Nigerians based in Turkey are purchasing, packaging, and exporting these illicit arms to Nigeria. Well, let's bring you more now. The federal government has launched an initiative to establish an operating model and a framework for economic and financial inclusion. Well, the project is essentially designed to combat poverty and catalyze sustainable economic growth, as well as transform Nigeria into a $1 trillion economy by 2030. At a meeting to kick off the initiative held at the State House, Abuja, the Vice President Kashim Shettima said it symbolizes the commitment of President Bola Tinubu's administration to enhancing financial and economic inclusion across Africa.
I dare to say that at the heart of every strategy championed by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR has been the need to prioritize inclusive economic growth and development. This administration believes that our approach to inclusive growth must be strategic and sustainable. For the first time in Nigeria's history, economic and financial inclusion has been elevated to the agenda of the National Economic Council, while all our 36 state governors and the FCT minister participate in crucial policy deliberations alongside other stakeholders.
And now to the National Assembly, where the Senate has rejected a resolution seeking oversight monies appropriated to previous chiefs for the procurement of arms and ammunition that will be service chiefs. But the rejection comes against the backdrop of a motion raised by Senator Ali Ndume on the suicide attacks in Koza, Borno State, and the urgent need to stem the tide of the menace. Now, during the debate, Senator Adams Oshiomhole proposed an additional prayer, asking that the Senate should not only seek to provide more funds for the army, but guard it jealously by monitoring the procurements.
Under the supervision and oversight of this National Assembly, previous service chiefs diverted money to build universities in their various communities. Those are the kind of resources that should have been used to procure modern technology. We saw that the Navy even appropriate money to buy a yacht. That is why the oversight responsibility of this Senate is extremely important, to prevent the armed forces to prioritize in a manner that coincides with what we think the Nigerian Army should be doing.
Those in support of this additional prayer say aye, and those against say nay. Okay. The nays have it.
More activities for senators, but this time outside of the chambers. The senators from the southeast of Nigeria have pleaded with President Bola Tinubu for the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu. The senators, led by Senator Inaya Baribe, say they believe the release of Kanu will be a plus towards the restoration of the social and economic activities in the southeast region. The senators held a closed-door meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, where the letter begging President Tinubu to release Mr. Kanu was delivered for onward passage to the presidency.
This matter cannot be resolved legally, and if we continue with the legal wrangling, that it will continue to cause the insecurities, because the legitimate demands has been hijacked by criminals, undesirables, and all manners of elements who have used it to perpetrate their own nefarious deals on the rest of the people of the Southeast. Nobody in the Southeast likes what is going on. People cannot go out of their houses on Mondays. People are maimed and killed and all that. And some people are roaming around, killing even security men in the name of looking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And Nnamdi Kanu himself also confirmed to me last Monday that he never made any request of that nature, that anybody should go and kill people. In fact, he was very pained that the Southeast is suffering because of this.
And to the state legislature, the Imo State House of Assembly has suspended 4 lawmakers indefinitely for allegedly plotting to impeach the Speaker, Chike Olembe, during a plenary session at the House of Assembly in the state capital, Owerri. The Speaker alleged that the 4 lawmakers have brought disrepute and ridicule to the House by their actions at various fora, by inciting other members against the leadership of the House for no just cause and trying to impeach the Speaker and after an executive session, the decision to suspend them was taken. For more stories now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has alerted the public of a plan by a group to instigate a protest against the commission. In a statement by its spokesperson, Dele Oyiwale, the EFCC notes that the group has been actively campaigning on social media, recruiting those they described as impressionable young Nigerians, including students, to protest against the EFCC. Now, this campaign, according to the commission, has been promoted as a resistance to the operational activities of the commission, especially with respect to the enforcement of the laws dealing with cybercrimes. It adds that it is working with sister security agencies and taking necessary measures to deal with possible threats to the peace and security of Nigeria. But speaking of security, the Ogun State Police Command says 2 suspected kidnappers who abducted travelers along the Shagamu-Ilisho Expressway have been neutralized, while others escaped with gunshot injuries. The State Commissioner of Police, Abiodun Alamutu, made the disclosure in Abeokuta, the state capital, while briefing journalists. He says 5 AK-47 rifles and ammunition were recovered from them, or the 4 victims, which include, by the way, the 4 kidnapped victims, which include 3 Indian nationals and a Nigerian, regained their freedom earlier on along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Well, let's talk some business now in what has been described as a bid to further expedite the process of expanding consumer credit access to Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu has appointed a board for the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, that's Credicorp. The new board has Otumba Aderemi Abdul as chairman, Engineer Uzoma Wagba as managing director and chief executive officer, Mrs. Aisha Abdullahi and Ms. Olanike Kolawole as executive directors, amongst others. According to the statement by Special Advisor of Media to the President, Ajurin Galali, the President expects the new board members to bring their vast experience, competence, and dedication to bear. And outside the country, Britain's political leaders made a final frantic push for votes on Wednesday. That's the last day of an election campaign expected to return a Labour government after 14 years of Conservative rule. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak insisted he was still fighting hard, despite one of his closest allies conceding that the Tories were heading for an extraordinary landslide defeat today. The Conservatives suffered a further blow at the 11th hour when the Sun tabloid, famous for backing election winners, endorsed Keir Starmer's Labour. The polls overwhelmingly predict that Labour will win its first general election since 2005, making Starmer the party's first prime minister since Gordon Brown left office in 2010. And the sports news now, barely a month after his resignation, less than a month, I should say, after his resignation as coach of the Super Eagles, Finidi George has taken up the role of technical manager for MPFL side Rivers United. Well, during his brief and eventful tenure as the head of Eagles, George's 1-1 draw against South Africa in Uyo and a 2-1 loss to Benin Republic in Abidjan put Nigeria's qualification for the World Cup in serious doubt. But this would lead to several calls from the fans for a sack, despite what seemed to be a bad outing for the 53-year-old 2021-2022 champions. In a statement on their X handle on Wednesday, expressed optimism at having the ex-Eagles international managing the side. Now, those are your top stories at this hour, but what are you saying about them? Well, that's where we're headed next. Head into your comments and contributions on this part of the show. And of course, Jeffrey joins me to walk through that. Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Loads of things you always talk about. Responsibility is always the same, to share them with you and with everyone else who was not following through, to amplify your voice, especially on X. So that's where we're going to we'll get started. The flooding in Lagos, naturally. But before we jump to the flooding, congratulations to Finidi George, by the way. He's got himself a new job. Even
when another
like
door
a downgrade,
another opens.
I don't know. All right, so let's get straight to it. The flooding in Lagos, and it rained. They used to say cat and dog. Is this still in English?
Well, I don't think
is the English
it rained way more than that in Lagos.
Okay.
And there's a saying, by the way, where I'm from, that whatever's coming from up there, the ground is always ready to receive it. But it wasn't entirely the case yesterday in Lagos.
Okay, let's hear what Mr. Gerald says. He said, every year, Lagos State faces the same issue. Houses were demolished to avoid this. Yet it seems it's worse this year. Every year, citizens lose billions because of the flood.
But take a look at what this user says. Life is wealth. It's quite interesting. And it says, we are the cause of the flood due to dumping waste indiscriminately. Well, you need to properly contextualize this we. First, I do not dump waste indiscriminately. Secondly, it's a multidimensional issue. But I think I get the point this user is trying to make.
Citizens should take responsibility.
Yeah, but I'm removing myself from that one.
Bajubo says, with loads of numbers, Lagos State government demolishes houses built on drainages. That's like call and response kind of conversation. They are tagging us, so they hate us, they are chasing us out of Lagos. Nigeria is whatever that is. Rainfalls, floods everywhere on the streets and roads due to drainage being blocked by houses built on drainages.
You have to speak social media lingo to really understand that particular post. But take a look at what this next user has to say. Lib_well says, flooding is a natural phenomenon. I guess continuing disregard for actual Lagos City plan and compliance has caused obstruction to easy passage of excess water when it rains. What this user ends by saying, enjoy. I don't know, but it looks like a lot of people are excited or gloating about this. I don't know.
I don't understand.
It comes across as that.
Didi Joseph says, what will it take to clear out the gutters for a start safe? There are no gutters and drainages. It's so crazy how they can't fix this. It's getting worse every year.
True aficionado re-echoes that point. All the drainages are blocked with dirt, manner of speaking, I should say. How can water then flow freely, this user says? People dump dirt on the drainage, and that's what the Commissioner for Environment is supposed to take seriously, and not to demolish people's property. So it's really finding the delicate balance and looking for creative ways, and I think that's the point being made here. But not to worry, these questions will be put to the government and even the opposition this morning, and the idea is to find a solution. So don't worry, those questions will be asked.
At the end of the day, I hope that this government will do their part as well, just like citizens have to do their part, because the argument has always been, why wait for the building to get high up there and people have started living in it
for
before
years,
you go to demolish? That is totally unacceptable, and it speaks to some of the rot in the system, because someone may have approved that facility or that building, or someone is not supervising enough to ensure that building doesn't go up as it should. But let's move on now. Something happened in Benin City yesterday. The students came out to protest in front of their gate. As always, if you use that road heading to either Lagos, you're going to other parts of the south, they blocked that Uniben gate, protesting
and by
against...
extension, the one part of the expressway.
Yes. And what was the protest all about? They said they've not had light for a long time, maybe about 3 weeks. But the university senate is saying that the electricity bill is in the range of 200 million. Expecting so much power is not realistic for them because of their wage bill. That's on one hand. The students, of course, they will do what they have to do. But let's hear what you're saying. Tunde Adeleke says, an emergency Senate meeting should be summoned by the Vice Chancellor. Uniben cannot afford to pay a monthly electricity bill of 300 million naira. The students should be patient with management, otherwise they should be asked to go home to enjoy 24-hour supply. 24/7 power supply.
It's ironic, Jeffrey. I mean, schools have the departments and faculties of engineering.
And electrical.
So you teach students how to generate power, how to do all of these things, but you still find...
Why can't universities generate their own power?
Don't generate power. It's just mind-boggling. And students have to boil their beans, Jeffrey. Students have to iron their clothes. They have to boil their water.
You have to go there.
I mean, this is what you have to do.
And it's raining now.
Exactly.
So everybody
you need that power by all means. Take a look at what Ajibola Aking says is preventing the right of way of others going to solve the issue on the ground, and asks, why are we always like this? But again, I say...
But that is what protests... It beats me when people act like... It's like a politician making a political move and you're surprised that he's making a political move. That is the intention. Protest is supposed to obstruct something, inconvenience people.
But then, I'm saying where your right ends and where mine starts.
I said that is what protest is actually all about. If protest is about everybody should be cool and going, nobody's going to get a result out of protest. That's why we say it should be, the key word is peaceful.
Right.
That's the key word. So when you say they blocked road, stopping others, that's the idea for them.
Jeffrey, do you have a placard behind you?
I don't know. I'm just saying. Alfonso says, big 2024 and we're still having light issues in Uniben. A month to exams and we don't have light and you expect students to come and write exams. Hostel lights can't even get water to have their bath or cook.
So there's a lot about that, but the point we're trying to make is we shouldn't be here, obviously. So we need this to be resolved for the students, for the school, and for people plying that route. But we move on to yet another one. This one is about a planned protest, and the EFCC is warning promoters of a planned protest. And the EFCC in a statement said they believe that these people are trying to pick up arms to protest. So take a look at what people have to say about this. Simeon Official 3 says, we understand the EFCC's commitment to fighting corruption and cybercrime, and we appreciate their efforts to protect the future of Nigerian youth. However, we also urge the Commission to ensure that their measures are balanced with the needs to respect human rights, and I think that's at the heart of this issue.
I've never seen where EFCC issues statements about protests. I think this is my first time. I'm used to the DSS doing this, so... and sometimes when you invite these guys to come and talk, let me not call them out, by the way. Sukodiga says, how has protesting been a crime? Why don't you want citizens to protest? Have you discharged your duties in the right manner? If yes, why should a protest be an issue of concern to you? For you, citizens have the right to do whatever they want. You keep on discharging your duties the best way you fit. Best way fit, I guess so. Nigeria is not a banana republic. As we say, if your protest just moves from whatever it is to non-peaceful, then it's unacceptable. So let's be clear.
It is indeed. So, I mean, it's obvious that there are things that need to be done. By the way, those officers that were arrested, what is being done?
Yes. The one that harassed the lady.
Exactly. So these are things people need to hear. Put it out there. Let people know what you're doing to ensure these things don't happen again. It's a no-brainer. And
the EFCC has to be careful in terms of what their reputation is turning into. It's an institution of Nigeria. So we must protect that institution. Yeah. And
the eagle, as we always call it.
And must weed out the bad elements, because sometimes you're worried if I go to a hotel with my wife and we're having a good time, and then because of 1-2 persons doing whatever, you barge into my room. That's not going to be funny. We're going to take it as far as we can go.
Jeffrey said so, and I think that's, of course, the thinking of a lot of people. But let's move on to the aftermath of, yet again, the rain in Lagos. 7 rescued as 2-story building collapses in Lagos. And you see, Trust Issue _T has the first one, says it's obvious that this is as a result of the heavy downpour. The building might as well be marked for demolition by LASG. Says, but they won't listen? Okay.
All right. NU1 _ said they are just quick to build and collect rent. Quality is never their problem.
Okay, so let's move on to something quickly. Now, this has caused a lot of conversation online, and it's the video of the president of the Senate, Fabio, at some point saying that he has no doubt that by the time President Tinubu is through with his tenure in the country 7 years from that time when he was speaking, many people will not recognize Nigeria again. So take a listen now. I'll tell you what Nigerians are saying about this.
Another major wonder of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. This is the way to cater for a city of this nature. This is a way to take care of the people of the area councils and also the FCD residents and visitors alike. So, I believe that you are a square peg in a square hole. And I must thank the president for having the eyes to pinpoint those who can perform and bringing them. He did this in Lagos, and today Lagos is one of the best, one of the largest economies in the whole of Africa when we are talking about cities. I have no doubt that by the time this president is through with his tenure in this country, 7 years from today, many people will not recognize FCT. They will not recognize Nigeria again. So all I can say is let us continue to pray for it.
You know, that's what I say. Politicians will always be politicians. That's a politician talking. What do you expect him to say? Umahi say he even had a vision also, if I am correct, and all of that. These are politicians. They will have to say what they have to say. But what are you saying?
Exactly, and that's how we're approaching this. So Nigerians watched that again and they thought, so this could mean 2 things, either of 2 things. So take a look at what this user says. TZ10 _ said he's speaking the fact. And this is sarcasm. We can't even recognize the country as it stands now. So you understand how people are approaching this now.
Yeah. All right. I show _ Lex says, with this way you people are going, no one will recognize this country in its 4 years. With this way things are going, I guess. Even Nigerians in Nigerians won't. Okay, even Nigerians in Nigeria, I guess that's what they wanted to say, won't recognize the country.
So that statement could either mean good or bad. And I think this is a wake-up call for the political leaders, everyone. We have to put all hands on deck. We can't keep doing the same things we were doing then and expect different results. Cut cost of governance. Let us see those at the very top taking the lead when it comes to setting the tone for transparency, accountability. Again, it's a no-brainer. They say governance is not rocket science.
At the end of the day, there are simple things. There are what we call intangible things that government can even do that will affect that influence the people. Sometimes we don't see these things. And it's sad to see politicians keep talking about next election, next election. This is barely a year. You haven't even done what you were elected to do yet. Some are failing. We don't want to call names, but we know the data, we know the numbers. Some of these governors and some of these leaders are failing in their duty. And tomorrow, some of them may be re-elected. We need to call them out at some point. So I think politicians should taper down on election, 8 years, 4 years. Let's get the country fixed first. And that argument will just be natural. If you did well, you get re-elected. If you didn't do well,
as simple as that,
you booted out.
So we're putting it out there yet again that this is a feeling of the people. So let's take it on board, soak it in, and ensure we do better. We'll take a moment now on the show. When we return, we're starting off with a big one, the flooding in Lagos. Solutions have been proffered in the past, so we'll walk through some of those solutions again. Then we'll hear from government, so don't go anywhere. It's a big one right here on the Morning Brief. Stay with us.
The rains are here. Major parts of Lagos is affected by the downpour. From mainland to Lagos Island, nowhere is spared. Iyanoworo inward third mainland bridge is completely taken over by flood. Toluwashe area of Bega, Oworoshoki residential area is also submerged. Ikotu Road is not left out. Tricycle operators are trying to make their way through the water. Egbeda Akunwajo Road is overflowing. Some motorists struggle to drive through the flood. Ogba leading to Wemco Road is not so bad. But as a result of the rainfall, traffic is already building in some parts like Agege, Inward Ogba, and it's congested. While residents of the state are appealing to the government to clear the drainage more often to avoid flood disaster, there's also the responsibility of managing waste better.
Welcome back. So 10 hours of rainfall from yesterday have caused us pretty much to reflect on our choices, on our topography, and the consequences for the future, particularly because those rains, the deluge, came yesterday with some wholesome consequences. So speaking of solutions, we have joining us on the program this morning to reflect on them, the Lagos governorship candidate in 2023 election and architect, Mr. Gbadebo Rhodes Viver. Mr. Rhodes Viver.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so somehow you crept back into the news following your proposal, during the governorship debate last year about the solution to flooding. I'd like to start with that. Does that give you a sense of, righteous, I told them so, and we're here feeling?
No, not really. I mean, even before I get into that, I want to commiserate with the family of Joshua that lost their life in Ikosi, K2, Koshofe local government. The many people that will have to repair their cars in considering this economy, have to change their engines and all sorts. And what is more painful to me is that I see a government that's very in your face and very active when it comes to demolitions. But when you have these kind of things, we don't see any emergency response. We don't see any emergency protocols. We see that same commissioner on Twitter tweeting. We're not seeing men on ground. We're not seeing intelligence being given out early. Avoid these routes. Creating diversions, right? Having roads that operate like a valve system. I mean, if you look at the flooding that happened at the bottom of 3rd Mainland Bridge yesterday, you see the other side of the road was relatively free. And there's this whole idea about you are dumping waste, you are building on canals. But before any building is built, sand filling must happen. And indiscriminate, haphazard sand filling has been happening across Lagos State. Look at Uru, for instance, when you are going up 3rd Mainland Bridge from the mainland, all on your left has been sand filled. I'm not sure if you remember, but there was a time where there was a significant amount of water there. What was the EIA that was done on that sand filling? And is it surprising that water is now pushing back? Because the water doesn't have anywhere to go. You look at places like Ilubirin, the sand filling that happened there and how it's affecting Adeliji. Look at the current sand filling that's going on around Parkview, right? Up until recently, there was on Lagos Lekki Ekpe Expressway, block 113, I believe, there was a huge green space allocated to that development. All of a sudden now some developer wants to build on it. But this place has been allocated for road expansion and drainage. And the people that live there are fighting and pushing and making a lot of, bringing to our notice that someone wants to develop on something that's been allocated for green space. This development will happen, and then years down the line, someone will come and say, oh, this place was originally allocated for irrigation and green space. So for me, I don't feel a sense of I told you so. I mean, anybody that loves Lagos well enough and has looked at the history of Lagos will see these things coming way before it happens, and which is why it's very painful to always see government pass the buck on the citizens when they have not done any forward thinking or forward planning or showing empathy, right, for the destruction that happens to Lagosians every year.
So I noted that you mentioned a number of areas on the mainland where sand filling is happening, not on the island. And that brings me to the next question, which you've touched a bit on, but I want you to expand upon it. So how much of the flooding that we're currently experiencing is as a result of human conduct as against the impact of climate change, especially because the NIMET had predicted that a number of states will be affected and a number of local government areas will be affected in this year's rains?
I feel that Lagos State has been a coastal, low-lying state for a long time. Right? You look at places like the Netherlands, Amsterdam, you look at Japan, the GCAN, rain and flooding prevention that they have, right? These are people that have seen that they are prone to flooding, so they've created forward-thinking solutions. The solutions that we've seen with this state government for the last 24 years, because understand they've been in power for 24 years, the same people, has been very pedestrian. It has just been pedestrian. You have your gutters, okay, don't dump waste in your gutters, okay, but what is your waste management policy? How have you brought it down to a local government? How have you created incentives for people to manage their waste because it can be converted to wealth? How have you covered your gutters? How have you localize the management of your desilting and your canal management systems? How have you gotten the CDAs involved and local governments involved? You have a situation where local governments are just extension of political parties. They don't have skin in the game. You see that normally gutters are cleared in February, March. This year we barely saw any of that. So when you see this flooding, you cannot just say citizenry. There's a lot. Lagos State has to take water. You see, the Netherlands and those low-lying states, they have a concept of sponge cities. They have a concept of living with water, not fighting water. You take it very seriously, and that affects your waste management system, that affects your wetland protection policy. That is sacrosanct. Okay. Not because you're a governor's friend or you're a friend of the governor, you can Sandfield, but then demolish other people's houses. Okay.
Apparently, there are layers to the solution.
Yes.
So let's start with, as much as possible, the heavy lifting that government has to do. You've talked about it, but posit it rightly for us. So maybe you look at certain areas, what should have been done here? Let's all raise the conversation right now.
Yes.
What would have been done differently, say in Oworo?
Yes.
And parts of Lekki where it's now almost a mess.
Yes.
What could have been done?
Yes. Okay, so first of all, we need a wetland protection policy. Wetlands are nature's natural sinkholes, right? And indiscriminate sand filling is pushing water away, and the city is having to deal with it as opposed to the water going out. And this policy must be sacrosanct. Again, like I say, it's not enough for a lubricant to be sand filled, and then you're talking about somebody building on a canal. The McGregor Canal was built in 1903. This has been reduced and reduced because of people encroaching for decades coming down here. So first, we need a wetland protection policy that is sacrosanct. We also need to address this issue with a forward-thinking mindset, which is we have to bring in innovation. Like I give an example of the GCAN flood protection system in Japan. Huge infiltration systems that can contain water, right, is linked to a pump to pump the water out. And then we start to have, it's not a dam, the word for it is, so a wall by which you can then manage the water outside and the water inside, right? So a whole system that must be brought in to show that there is a forward thinking, because Lagos State is sinking. Lagos State has been listed as one of the cities that will disappear in the next about 60, 70 years in terms of water overflowing. So we cannot just be talking about gutters anymore, right? We need to have a well-managed, mechanized and hydraulic system that's a full body of work, managed with the wetland protection system, and then it then comes down to the people. In terms of waste management, we need to ensure that people are separating their waste from their homes, right? And that separation of waste, you know that, okay, based on this amount of organic waste I've separated, plastic waste I've separated, this is the money I can get back from the state. That way people will now be holding on to their waste as opposed to just dumping it indiscriminately. And lastly, we must ensure that this concretization of everything, right? Because if water cannot go down, that's a problem. We need to have parks, right? We need to have ponds. We need to have water systems that are part of a design. You see how the Oshodi interchange was flooded. I don't know if people have seen that video. Who are we going to blame for that? Did anybody build on a canal in that Oshodi interchange? It cost, from what I remember, the budget for that was between $50 to $70 million. That huge infrastructure, and you're seeing trains waddling through water. So it shows there is no thinking behind an innovative means of getting water out of the city. And that's extremely important for a state like Lagos.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, projections are quite dire, really, particularly when you see that the sea level increases per time, and Lagos is just about 1 meter plus above sea level. In fact, some areas are maybe below sea level. So clearly, we need to start acting. In fact, now we're smack in the middle of this, and we've seen the state governments with some activities, and you referenced one of it, demolishing buildings, trying to widen the channels and the rest. But you said something quite important, because you're not just opposition leader, you're also an architect. So it's like taking that you have the expertise and the experience with these sorts of things. So indiscriminate sand filling, and obviously this has been on for decades, clearly. So we've seen buildings come up and people are staying there. In fact, people have forgotten that anything happened. They don't even know the history. So if that has happened for a long time and we need to reverse it, do you then subscribe to demolishing some of these buildings?
I feel that the solution for this now, look at Lagos as it is, then create a channelization of water, right? A lot of these canals are not channeled, right? You have even the one at Odoyalaro, it's not channeled. There is no border, there's no boundary for it, right? So we need to invest in channeling all our canals. And if you have sand filled in a certain place and it's blocking water, we need to have a canal that will go through that place.
So do you mean that leave the house? I'm talking about wetlands now, because you're heavy on that, wetlands that have been sand filled and concretized. So obviously they can't soak in that water anymore. So are you saying leave those buildings that were built obviously legally with connivance from people in government? We must say that.
Thank you.
Leave those buildings and then try to find another route, or just do what is meant to be done, right? Allow the water pass through that, and that will mean demolishing those buildings.
I don't subscribe to demolishing
any building.
I don't subscribe to that, because you see, water does not have any meaning. Channel it to go where it's supposed to go. And I've also talked about bringing in a hydraulic system. The word I was looking for was dikes, right? So you have a dike, you have a water pump, you have that entire system that is pushing water out. So your dike is preventing the water from backflow, right? And you have these paths that are going all through the state, right? And then also then you now have to also then look at other areas that you still have potential for wetland protection and then create it. So you're not demolishing people's houses, because the fact of the matter is this: in Lagos State, people cannot get mortgage to build their houses. People save most of their wealth to be able to buy a house, and you just want to demolish it based on your incompetence in the last 24 years.
Encouraging illegality as well.
No, because if the government is complicit in an illegality, that questions the idea of it being illegal, right? If the government is not complicit, then you can talk about illegality. But there is no way a building will go past foundation level and the government is not complicit in it in some way, shape, or form.
So basically leave those buildings.
Leave it and create channels of water that will go through that same site. For instance, I want to see a channel, a wide, about 9 to 10 meters wide channel that will go through Ilubirin, right? Have a dike, have pumps to get water out that's affecting.
What if there's a building
Lagos Island
that is on the right of way of this channelization you're talking? Is it underground you're talking about here, or surface, so that we contextualize it properly?
So for instance, right, you look at a building, right? There's always space around that building, right? So the idea first is, let's prioritize saving the building, but then let's also prioritize having a right of way for the water, right? So we don't just come there and just destroy. You can create a canal and cover it. So if there's a car park, you create a canal, deep canal, right? Cover it, and cars can still park on top of it.
But would there be long-term consequences for the building in question?
So it depends. If you channel the water, right, and ensure that the waterproofing is done, right, all the way down, it should not affect the building structurally, right? It should not affect it structurally. And these are also things that the engineers will have to, that will be part of their priority. We are channeling this thing, we do not want it to structurally affect this building. And then the engineer will give specifications for how that canal is going to be able to be built and how it's going to flow. My point is, there must be a human face to whatever solution we are looking for, because at the end of the day, the government and development is here to serve the people.
But who pays for it?
Now, that is the question. Government has shown itself incompetent in this situation that even allowed for this situation to happen in the first place. For instance, the way Ilubirin is affecting Adenja Delhi, who is responsible for that? right? So it has to be a meeting of the two, right? There must be a coming together to say, listen, we either destroy 5 units of real estate in your place, and this will be the cost of it, or we build a canal here. The government, recognize my complicity in this, so I'm going to come in 50%, you come in 50%, and we build it, right? That's the approach I would use. I know that it might not be conventional, but the point is, the government is complicit in this failure. They cannot just go around scot-free. Civil servants that sign these things, people that give planning permission, people that watch, that were supposed to supervise, but did not supervise. And then all of a sudden, the only person that's paying for it are the people that live in that residence. That's not just.
I just want to quickly say that, or ask you, are you willing to work with the state government on this one, the Lagos state government?
I mean, there's nothing I'm saying here that I not prefer in any of the debates that I spoke about.
No, I mean actively, beyond just speaking about it.
Well, for me, you see, I must have faith in a government that has empathy for people and is not so performative. You constantly see the way they try and manipulate on social media or rented accounts, how they try to always put back blame on the people, as opposed to doing forward-thinking work and doing the hard work. You know, I will not tarnish my credibility with a performative set of people. Pretty much, yeah.
You paint a grim picture, and speaking of who should pay for it, perhaps we'll be talking to who should pay for it next. But we'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Gbadebo Road Survivor, governorship candidate 2023 election, Labour Party in Lagos. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And architect, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Kayode.
Well, so we've taken one leg to this, and that's the idea of the conversation, essentially get solutions, because we're all in this together. As I say, we're all in this ship together. But the next leg of the conversation will see us speaking to the side of government. And we have joining us on the program, the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab. He joins us virtually on the show. Mr. Wahab, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Morning.
Well, let's just get right into it, because this is an existential threat. We're smack in the middle of this, and a lot of people are looking to government to see, to set the tone. What will be done next? What should we expect? But first, let's maybe count the losses. From your stock taking, just how much of Lagos was affected, the death toll, and has a government been able to put a figure to just how much of an impact this has had on the state? So I'm talking death toll, the areas affected now. Mr. Wahab.
Thank you very much. I think I will start by saying to Lagosians, we are sorry for the inconveniences caused due to nature's cause yesterday morning. And it's not for failure to plan that we had what happened yesterday. No. It was nature taking its full course. And we are sorry for those whose lives were disrupted. They couldn't go to work, they couldn't go to their marketplaces, they couldn't go to school. So that being said, we took stock, and I listened to what Mr. Gbadebo Road Survivor said, and my response to start with will be, you can campaign in all the poetry you want, but when it comes to governance, it's done in prose, which invariably meant the hard decisions will be done, they will make hard decisions, they'll fix things the right way. It doesn't have to stay that way, but we've left the campaign mode. We are now in the governance mode, and he made it clear for him it's about politics. What is about the people of Lagos State, whose lives were impacted by what happened yesterday? Let me break it down. We've taken stock. For those on the island, we had the tidal level of the lagoon was up about 2-3 hours because the rain was about 10 hours. So we said to them, this is a matter of flash flooding for those on the island, Ikoyi, PI, and the Lekki Peninsula corridor. That within 1 hour or two, the water will recede and things will get back to normal. But the Olokomeji junction, that's approaching Third Mainland, we had a flash flood situation on a leg of it. Interestingly, he said we did have our emergency team on ground. That is not true. The emergency team were on ground since around 4 a.m. I've been up around 4 a.m. yesterday morning myself. And we said, look, this also give us 1 or 2 hours. And the videos showed, even at Yanoiba. So things were done the right way. But when it comes to nature, nature will take its course. What we have to do is to mitigate the impact of nature on the environment. And that was what we did yesterday. So for Lagosians, we are sorry for what happened. We are sorry for the disruption. We are sorry for the loss of life. They were not intended, nature took its course, and then we pushed back to mitigate and allow the water flow back to the lagoons. And for those on the upland, of Alimosho, Ikeja, same thing happened. We had to put in place the resilient infrastructure. And the infrastructure were able to move the water out of the streets into the canal, and then they discharged them into the lagoon where necessary.
Mr. Wahab, we did ask Mr. Vival how much of nature contributed to this as against our conduct, and he was emphatic about our conduct, speaking of which he referred to sand filling in major parts of the state. He referred to Ilubire. And, I could also talk about what we know now as the Eco-Atlantic City project, of which 10 kilometers of land have been reclaimed for that big project in Lagos. So, a few years back, Lekki residents pointed fingers at that project for being partly responsible, for what they experiencing, and they're still experiencing it now. I'd like you to speak to that as, what part of what is responsible for this ongoing flooding, particularly because Lagos has been projected to be one of the cities that could disappear in the next 60 years, which Mr. Vival also referred to.
Now, let me answer that question. Realistically, Eco-Atlantic project saved the whole of Victoria Island. And I don't know where Vival was years back, when the whole of Ahmadu Bello stretch was consumed by the Babish, the old Babish we used to know. When the federal government then, all they do was pump money into it. But a solution came for us as a state when they built the Great Wall of Lagos to protect that corridor down to the Okonaja corridor. And I don't think that was the reason why we had flooding or flash flooding. Lekki Gardens, the video they showed, had a peculiar problem. Lekki Gardens discharges into 633 that runs from Shogotedo through the back of Cooperative Villa into and discharges to the Omu Creek. People had built on that part. We were there 2 Sundays ago. We served them to remove the contraventions. And we had meetings with Villa because we have to remove the culverts holding back the water on the alternative routes to Villa on System 63. And that is ongoing. Now, if Mr. Vival says to you that reclamation had caused this flooding, it's just being clever by half. Lagos' whole size is 3,577 square kilometers of land. And we have 22 million people. Yes, are people doing reclamation? I will tell you yes. One was done on System 156. We've had meetings with them, and we've told them, you have to open up this channel. They have a COO. We are not disputing their COO. That's around conservation and Orchid Road area. We said to the developers, kindly let us run the canal through this your COO system. Houses have been built up. So it's just a matter of cherry-picking the truth and cherry-picking what he wants to tell the people, and then whistleblowing against the government. Because it's a coastal state. For a coastal state that is above sea level, slightly above sea level, we are going to experience flooding like it's done all over the world. And the fact also is that global warming is real and climate change issues are real. We as a people must also learn to take ownership. People woke up daily. We saw a video yesterday, we saw a picture of a woman and her husband. They took their bin and discharged it into the drainage system. He said to us, yes, we have not created an avenue for that. That's also not true. People just choose to be brazen, believing there are no consequences. That is not true. Things have changed. So for us as a state, we keep building the infrastructures to save us from the impact of climate. But are we going to have flash flooding? I'll tell you yes.
All right, Mr.
And within 2 hours, it will ease off.
Mr. Wahab, on the fact is that we're seeing these things happen. So 2 questions in one. I'm seeing the water around the railway area. Shouldn't that maybe be prevented as much as possible in the design? We expect that should have been envisaged and something should have been done to ensure that it's not as bad as we saw it. So my second leg of the question is, do you think government has really done enough? Which is his argument. He said the government is not forward-thinking. I'm using his words now. So it's the repeat and rinse situation. Demolish the building, create drainage, and wait.
Okay, this is entitled to his opinion. Opinion is I can ask, everybody does have one. You may be a good architect, but when it comes to urban planning issues, you have to know about it. You may be one of the best architects in the world. You'll be good at drawing houses, drawing designs, but when it comes to environmental issues, possibly you don't know anything about it. You see, did we have flash flooding around the state yesterday? I'll tell you yes. Did we provide the infrastructure to discharge the flood water, the storm water? I will tell you yes. And that is why if you had gone back there 1 or 2 hours after, you won't see the water anymore. It receded. The rain was for about 10 hours yesterday, and it was very heavy. It's the heaviest I'm going to have in July, by the way, 26.9 mm. So if Mr. Bible believes it's about rhetoric, I'll tell you it's a no-no. It's about doing the hard work on ground. Did we have flash flooding? I will still say to you, yes. Are we going to be experiencing flash flooding when the rain is heavy? I will tell you yes. But have we put in place resilient infrastructure? I will also tell you yes. And we have the manpower on ground to support the system and push out. Excuse me, please. And push out where there is need for that. I also tell you yes.
You asked the question with a lot of yes, yes, yes. I understand. I know what flash flooding is. We all know what it is. My question is, could the government have done better?
With respect to what? Better with respect to what? In what context?
We saw the flash flood. We saw the impact of the flash flood. More water is coming, apparently. And if the right things are done or things are done, there is a way that it may not have the level of impact it has. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay, let me answer you in a very direct way. Is Lagos a coastal state? Yes, abutted by the sea and then the lagoon. We have the creeks and then we have the swamps. So what you call a flash flood, when the tidal wave is high, storm water cannot discharge into the sea or the lagoon. And within 1 hour or 2, when that water level comes down, it will discharge. That's why it's a flash flood. It's ponding. It's global. It's globally known as ponding. It's not permanent. And for situations like this, without knowing the wisdom, what else would say I've done? To hold back nature. It's not possible. We've created the outlet. We've been able to ensure to our people, say to our people that these outlets will throw the water into the lagoon for you. Just be patient. That's why we called for calm. And that was my first response. I said, the Russians, please be calm. Olopomeji is a flash flood. It will ease up and discharge into the lagoon. The rain was about 10 hours. And within 1 hour or 2, it eased up. The water receded. And then everything cleared up. That's why it's a flash flood.
Right.
And for the upland area of the state, Alimo Shore, Ikeja, the water level was high. And then within 1 hour, 2 hours, it discharged.
All right.
Those are not flash flood.
Oh,
it was the water level.
So the essence of this conversation also is to have everybody on board, really, and sort of help everyone know what their responsibility is from the government to the people, not in terms of throwing blames. But yes, if there are ways that balls were dropped or people dropped the ball, would by all means call them out so that we can do better next time. So let's have a checklist of the things that need to be done in the situation we're in such that we mitigate the effect. Because as you said, Lagos is just 1+ meter above sea level. Some areas are even below sea level here. And in the coming years, we understand that the sea level is rising, and they say Lagos may disappear, God forbid. As I said. So what is that checklist? And I know on that checklist, waste management, there's drainage. I don't know for you if there's demolition of buildings, because he says that we can be more creative. Rather than demolish buildings, there can be channels. So what is the checklist for government and the people? Let's have that.
Thank you very much. Now, the checklist for us is, do we have a policy for municipal solid waste? I'll tell you, yes, that's why you have LOMA in place and the PSP operations. Do you have a policy to remove and clear your drainage paths and canals? I'll also tell you, yes. And that's why we keep working 24/7, 7 days of the week, all year round, to clear and create drainage paths for our water, storm water. But beyond that, people need to also take ownership by taking ownership of their own environment. Look, you stay in a place, you wake up by 4 a.m., you take your waste bin and choose to discharge it into your drainage paths, your secondary, your tertiary drainage in front of your property. It's an invitation to chaos when it rains. If you have noticed this, let me say this. We banned styrofoam some months back. Why did we do that? Because there are non-biodegradable elements. And we found out with time, they clog the waterways, they clog our drainage systems. Beyond the fact that they are very dangerous to the aquatic life of the states. When we banned, people like Eloswag were saying it was a wrong policy. Today, the benefit of hindsight, we've seen the benefit of what that ban had done for the states. That's what we're talking about by being proactive. The policies are in place. We're implementing them painstakingly. If we have to remove properties on our channels, collector parts, canal parts, we do them by serving the website notices. We don't just do them because whimsically we choose to do them. We do them because we have to do them to save the state from flooding. In October last year, after serving notices to people around the Mobile, at Okota, at Ikotarada, we went and we had to open System 44. That saved the whole 12 villages on that axis and properties. People like Eloswag were doing the dog whistling and they were just in politics. He came on air now to say Ilubiri is flooding at energy. That means he's living in the past. In truth, there is a pumping station at Ilubiri, pumping water out of an energy. There is a concrete lined drainage system taking the water into the lagoon. The truth is, the most part of Oroyi and energy are low-lying areas. And at low-lying areas, when the water level is high, it will backflow to the area again. So what we're doing is pumping the water out. And to say the state doesn't have a wetland policy, it's also very wrong and very political. There is a wetland policy. And that is why we have said to them in the Ministry of Environment, you can build on the wetland. We're not allowing them to build on the wetland. If anybody has got to build on the wetland, you'll be sure they don't have an approval from the Ministry of Fiscal Planning and Urban Development. So we should try and limit the politics and face addressing the human issues. And human issues are very straight.
But Mr. Wahab.
Excuse me, the human issues are very straight. Will nature take its course? Oh yes. Can we mitigate it by creating a structure? Yes, the state is doing that. Can we as a people also embrace nature? Yes, we have to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, so beyond the politics, Mr. Wahab, let's look at what the government is doing now. And you talked about the waste management policy, but if you look critically at that, there is, an absence of oil. It's not as far-reaching as it should be, particularly if you considered, slum areas in Lagos, Ajeromi, Felodun, what's it called now, Ajegunle, Iyanoworo, where these areas where we are recording, some of the impact of the current cholera outbreak. there's an absence of an effective waste management policies in these localities, and it's having an impact on the flooding that we're seeing. So, for instance, there are areas where they have no business experiencing flooding, and they're experiencing flooding. So how would you react to that?
You've asked two questions. You spoke about cholera outbreak in passing, and then spoke about not having the proper waste management system in Akara. That's not true. The Loma policy and PSP operations covers the states. Are they having challenges? Oh, I'll tell you yes. And that's why Loma intervenes every now and then, cutting away in areas where the PSPs have challenges. But the cholera is a cause and effect kind of thing, and it's countrywide. But for us as a state, we've taken ownership of it, and we say to our people, we have this challenge. You have to take care of your personal hygiene. As a state, we are going to give you everything necessary to make it habitable for you. You can't blame Loma for that outbreak. No, it's be unfair on Loma or the waste management system. It's far from it. So for me, the cholera outbreak is on. Are we confronting it? Oh yes, frontally. Are we addressing the causal effect? Oh yes. But we can't say it's God of Loma. No. Loma does the job. The PSP operators are doing their jobs, and they are doing it statewide. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Wahab, quite a conversation, and I'm looking through some of the comments from our audience. Some of them feel like government is giving itself a pass mark and it's scoring the citizens low and saying, no, you are doing the wrong things. And I think it's important to ensure that the messaging doesn't look like, oh, we're doing all that we ought to do while the people should sit up. And just quickly, I'd like you to speak to Lagosians, less than 30 seconds. Are you promising that the government will do more to ensure that the impact of this is not felt as much in the coming days and months?
I'm not giving the government just a pass mark, and I'm not throwing the blame at the citizens. I would never do that. The citizens gave Mr. Governor the mandate and his deputy the mandate, and we are serving at their base. So, for Lagosians, like I said at the beginning, we are sorry for the inconveniences created by nature, the flash flood. We also didn't fold our hands and give up. We ensured we did needful, and within a few hours, the water disappeared. All we can say to Lagosians is, let us be patient, let us be calm, let us take ownership of our environment. Let us stop whoever wants to destroy the environment for us. When you see something, say something. Don't let them throw or cut them.
Yeah, we have to wind down now, Mr. Wahab. So is that a promise, just yes or no, that you do better? All right. There you go. We've been speaking with the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab. Thank you for your time. And by all means, let us work together to fix this. Thank you, and we wish you the best.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to yet another important matter. It's about the food on your table from the farm. Stay with us.
Food security is perhaps one of the most important forms of security, because if anything goes wrong, there are different dimensions to it, because survival instinct can kick in, and it may be difficult to control the social impact of all of that. That's why we are big on that conversation today, which is why perhaps when the president took over power last year, one of the first things he did was to declare a state of emergency in the agricultural sector. So, how well have we fared in terms of food security? Why are we having so much in terms of expensive food? Food is not getting cheaper. The very basic staple is now almost a luxury. What is going on? We want to talk to the people in the know to help us break down the situation. Abubakar Dansadao is an agri consultant and a rice miller. He joins us via Zoom from Kaduna State. And Mr. David Ezonyekwere, a farmer, founder, Cheap Market Deal, joins us from Abuja Studio. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me on board.
All right, let me talk to you, David, first, before I go to Mr. Dansandao on this particular one. Maybe help us. You've been on the road, literally. If you're following you on social media, you are in different states of the country going to buy food from farmers and selling them in different markets. You know the security situation firsthand. So maybe walk us through some of the things that may not be popular in the media that is affecting what is going on in terms of our food situation. David, that's for you.
If I can hear you clearly, you said what are some of the things that are affecting food prices that are not popular in the media, right?
Yes.
All right. So I will generally categorize it into two factors. I would say the side from the government and the side from we, the individuals. One of the major issues that is affecting food security in Nigeria, aside from climate change, we have the issue of security, which is a common factor. We also have, which is less spoken, we have the issue of multiple taxation, lack of infrastructure, and we also have, from the side of the individual, we have what they call behavioral preferences from the individuals. So a good example is the taxes farmers pay to move their products from the farm to the markets and to the final end consumers. Sometimes we have repeated mirror taxes across, let's say, 7 states that are affecting the price of this thing. We also have the issue of infrastructure, where there is no effective transport system to transport these things from the farm to the market or to the individuals, and which results in increase in post-harvest losses and the rest of it. Then we also have in the side of the consumers, so we have the issue of behavioral preferences. We've seen situations where certain customers prefer certain varieties, certain grade of food, certain types of food from a certain area to another one from a certain area, and so they prefer to pay higher value for this one than and lesser value for this one. So in terms of affects the farmers from this particular region and farmers from this particular region. So these are some of the issues facing the farmer system or the food system in Nigeria.
So let me come to you next, sir. Do you agree that these are some of the challenges, or from your own standpoint, there are other factors that may be contributing?
Yeah, so there are, but I can't say certain things on air. Let me just put it that way, because we all know that food security is a very sensitive issue to discuss in Nigeria. And once you start discussing food security in Nigeria, you might likely, it's a very tight rope to walk on. But I'm going to give you some of the issues. I'm going to still say some of these things again. Security, everybody knows is security. Security is a general issue facing Nigeria. For example, I was taking a toll of all the local governments in Nigeria, and I calculated that out of the 774 local governments we have in Nigeria, about more than 10% of these local governments are under one form of insecurity threat or another. For example, in Niger State, out of 20 plus local governments, we have 12 local governments that are under bandit attack, and these things are out of these 20 plus the 12, this represents more than 40% of the local government. Now, taking that number and running it across all the local governments in Nigeria, you discover that more than 70 plus local governments across Nigeria, not just in the north, are experiencing one form of insecurity threat or the other. Now, for the area of the insecurity, I have limited action to do, but I'm going to focus on the area where I and you have something to play out, which is the area of multiple taxation, which is the area of consumer behavior, which is the area of climate change, which is the area of infrastructure, which is the area of what's it called, irregular mining, because this is emerging as a new threat to the agric system in Nigeria, a situation where agric lands are being converted rapidly into mining sites. So this is already causing a strain on the already fragile food system we have in Nigeria. Then we also have the issue of crop failures, resistivity to pests, cost of input, which is a very big factor that is being exhibited by, which is increased by the economy of the country. For example, a bag of fertilizer used to be sold for like 25,000 naira before. that same bag of fertilizer is selling for about 60,000 naira now. That is more than 100% increase in the cost of farm inputs. Farmers can no longer pay for agri inputs effectively. It's becoming too expensive to farm, and even the guys that farm, let's say 100 hectares, they can't go to their farms now. So while I'm trying to avoid the area of focusing on security, there are also other areas to look out. The inputs, the technical know-how.
Absolutely, David.
Yeah, because
and those are very important points that you're making. So here's what we'll do to make it more robust. Let's go to Abubakar Dansador. You have raised a very important point, David. But Abubakar, now to you. You are in the thick of things as well. David goes around, he feels these things from around the country. But you are a rice miller. You're currently in Kaduna. You feel the security or lack of it, I should say. And of course, you handle one of the most important commodities right now, rice. So I'm tempted to ask you if you agree with David on those points, but add to that this one. Are things getting better right now? Because this has been on for quite some time. So are things getting better such that Nigerians will have some hope or renewed hope? Abubakar, that's for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I think he has said it, but in the issue of hope, realistically, honestly, I think we are not on track. Simply because the question is, like he has said, the rising price of input to farmers is on the rise, not arithmetically, but geometrically. And the area coverage that Nigerian farmers cultivate per annum is shrinking every year. One, to the factor of insecurity. Two, to the factor of economy. People cannot afford. A man cultivating 10 hectares this year because of the cost. We have what we call cost per hectare production. So it has increased almost by 300%. So the food production is always on the decrease. And the population of Nigeria, to be candid, is on the increase. So Nigeria have always been in food deficit, be it rice, be it maize, be it cassava, any commodity you can talk of in agriculture in Nigeria, you see that we have a deficit. I can give an example of maize. Why is maize is almost 90,000 naira per bag in northern part this year? Simply because the huge demand from the industry, poultry feed millers, is very high. Every nooks and corners of this country, you see poultry farms. It's telling you that because of poultry farm, definitely there must be increase in poultry feed. So poultry feed now is major constituent of feed milling is maize. So more than 60%, 65% of maize produced in Nigeria is taken by feed millers. So other food and assorted foods are taking almost 25%, like biscuit and other cookies. So human consumption for maize is barely less than 20%. So the competition between these three major components, rise in the demand, have made the price of maize to skyrocket. And that is why we feel right now that it's rainy season, it is time for government to make sure that they make intervention to subsidize the farm input so that farmers can go to farm. Let us increase the area of our farm production, because that is just the only way. Because if we don't increase the food production, I can assure you, any form of mitigating food insecurity, I think is going to be secondary, not primary. So this, I think, is what we are facing now. So the future, honestly speaking, is really not bright if we move in this direction. But government need to understand intervention is key. And secondly, Nigeria is always talking about export of agricultural produce. In a country where we are already producing at deficit, why are we exporting where we have not met even our own demand? Go to the Wanau Kano market in Kano. We are exporting maize, rice, and almost every food we produce in the north to sub-Saharan Africa. Why? When we have not even met our own demand. If you go to this market, you'll be surprised the number of traders going out of Nigeria. Another area also which is critical for government to understand is the issue of food reserve. We have 33 silos in Nigeria. But the question is, how many metric tons of commodities do we have in these silos? That is the question somebody needs to ask from the side of the government. So if we don't have food reserve as a nation, my brother, nothing can mitigate this price increase. Because globally, Food system has always been like this, fluctuating. If there is one issue in the food system in the global market, it will affect another country. Just war between Russia and Ukraine affected the wheat value chain globally. 2 countries fighting. Everywhere in the world today, the price of wheat have increased. Some countries have taken up the challenge to see how they can take that advantage and increase their wheat production. But yet, Nigeria still import wheat, we import wheat seed, we import wheat, and what have you. So how can you expect food price to drop in Nigeria when we import most of this seed into the country? Okay, so still exporting some that we still produce at deficit. So I think there is need for government to bring experts on the table so that we look at it holistically and look at areas that government needs to intervene. So this is my submission on this.
Okay, so both of you have spoken to challenges of farmers from different perspectives, and you highlighted, Mr. Dansadao, the importance of intervention. Speaking of which, there seems to have been a deliberate, interventionist approach on the part of government to the challenges of farmers, either directly through the distribution of fertilizers, and in different programs, the president from the federal level had ordered the distribution of fertilizers, and state governments in conjunction with development partners, have provided interventions either in the area of implements, tools, and fertilizers to farmers. The question is, if it's not as far-reaching as it should be, are they, working with the wrong groups, or farmers are not as organized in a group, that they should be organized such that government can reach them? David, I'd like you to start by responding to that.
Okay.
So now, if you look at the area of intervention from the government, you understand, you look at it from 2 angles. There's the side the government does on the paper, and there's the side from the field. Now, the government is trying on paper, good. But is it effective in the field? The answer is no. So if you go to Jos South local government area of Plateau State, if you talk to the farmers in those local governments, they will tell you that some of the intervention the federal government is bringing, that they buy it. This is something that was written, do not sell. In 2021, I bought seeds that were boldly written, federal government intervention on fertilizer. I bought fertilizers and seeds. Federal government fertilizer program, national fertilizer program, not to be sold. I bought it. They sold it in the open market. And the other ones, they sold seeds that were donated by one of the European partners to Nigerian that was written not to be sold. I bought it in the market. It was written boldly written not to be sold, but it was being sold in the market. So you see that some of the intervention of the government doesn't get directly to these grassroots farmers or the local farmers. And one needs to understand, they will tell you that they are small-scale farmers, they are small-scale farmers. In a country where 80% of the farmers are small-scale, you don't sideline them. You understand? So this intervention, both the credit scheme, both the extension services, both the input and the rest, most times 100 in, let's say, 8 out of 10 situations doesn't get to these farmers. They just get random pictures, random news and tell you, oh, we've done intervention for farmers. Or even if they are doing it, out of 200 farmers, they're just doing it for a very minute, less than 10% of the farm masses.
We wanted to find out,
yes,
that what you bought that was not to be sold, as clearly marked, who sold it to you?
Okay, so basically I bought seeds, you understand, and I bought what's it called, fertilizer. So firstly, I bought it in 2 states, 3 states actually. I bought one in Bauchi, I bought one in Jos, and I bought one in Akure, Ondo State.
Okay. Who sold it to you, David?
These are the issues that are coming.
Okay, we wanted to find out who sold it to you. Is it someone in the market, a supplier? Just maybe a description.
It's a supplier. It's a supplier.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Dansadao as we close. Mr. Dansadao, net exporter, food security, those are the things the politicians tout around to see how our future will look like. Why do you think this is not possible? Maybe in one phrase. I know you said it in passing, but practically seeing that some of the things they are doing is not working, and the governors have been given a week or so or two to come back with a plan to the federal government so that there can be funding. What should they be doing now to make sure that is actualized?
Okay, in a very simple term, we had a time when government designed a program to support farmers in this country, and it worked across every nooks and cranny of this country. That was during time of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the GES, when Additional was the Minister of Agriculture. To be candid, in the last a decade or two, is one of the best government programs, which it was an e-wallet. Farmers were registered, they had a database, government registered genuine farmers in remote areas, but they must have a cell phone where they just leave text message randomly from the system to tell them go to agro dealer and collect your input at 75% discount. A farmer is only meant to pay 25% and you get his input. So the system of GES was the best system. Ask any farmer in Nigeria will tell you Additional still remain one of the most celebrated Minister of Agriculture in this country because of that program. So I think we don't need to create something new. What has worked for us before, at least we should sustain it. We don't need to be changing program because there is a new government. Because the essence of government is sustainability, continuity. It has worked. So we don't need to design a new one. It's a very simple thing for this present government to do. And also at the same time, if I can recall, federal government was contributing 50% and state government was contributing 25%. So a farmer only paid 25%.
My apologies, we're totally out of time, but some of your last comments are quite insightful. So we hope that the authorities are listening, because at the end of the day, food security, as I said, is quite important. Agri-consultant, rice miller, Mr. Bakadan Sandao, joined us from Kaduna via Zoom, as well as farmer, founder, Cheap Market Deal, Mr. David Ezonyekwere, joined us from our Abuja studio. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program and for bringing your perspective to this particular very important issue. Thank you. All right, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, you know how we do it, softer side of things, and he joins us. Who? You'll find out. Join us again.
Eloka Wamo joins us this morning. You know him as Eloswag. Guess what? He brings all of the swag, and we're about to say hello to him. I had to do that. Eloswag, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
So you're quite a number of things. Obviously, you dress well, so we could put you in the fashion, model category, right? Yeah, but you are a dancer, content creator, and a musician.
Yes, please.
Come on, you pack a whole lot.
There's even one that you didn't even hear about. I'm a DJ, videographer. Yeah, so there's a lot of like talents, you know. I think I'm too multi-talented, so that's why sometimes can be very confusing.
I know. Is that how big your bank account is as well?
I get it there.
Multi-talented, multi-billionaire.
We look forward to that, absolutely. But you know, it's quite interesting, your journey. And you're one of the people, I mean, you've been trying to break away from that cage, that tag, former housemate, you know, just big brother tag. So how is that going for you? Because for some people, they say, well, you can't take it away entirely. That's how a lot of people got to know you. But obviously, it also has it takes its toll on the brand and just how you're able to express yourself. So help us understand how you're working around that.
Well, to be honest, I think it's just like when your parents give birth to you, right? You already know them as, this is my mom and this is my dad. So basically, Big Brother is more of like, a franchise. And when it makes you, people already knew you from that house. They knew your character. So they follow that, you know, route to like, oh, okay, this is how he is. They feel like, oh, most of the stuff that happen in the house is your real character, so they don't see the main side of you coming out. So that's why most of the housemates kind of like fight to remove themselves totally from like the Big Brother brand and stand on their own so that people can reach out to them, brands can reach out to them and give them like jobs and whatnot. So yeah, to be honest, it depends on the housemates. It depends on you yourself to like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to change this narrative? And yeah.
So I'm wondering, you said something that just caught my attention. So you people have been lying since in that reality TV.
Not really lying.
No, because you said
like it's a game, so you have to.
So you people have been faking it.
Not everybody fakes it. Me, I do fake it. It depends on you.
You know,
yourself.
because of the statement you made. That's
yeah. It depends on you yourself, right? So it depends on the character you want to, elope. You're like, oh, okay. Today I'm going to be a very angry person. Tomorrow I'm going to be a very nice person. Oh, I have a mood today because it's a house. You don't have TV, you don't have a phone, you can't communicate with anybody outside the house. So things can make you, the environments can make you do a lot of stuff. Like
because I was asking because the name is reality.
Yeah. So
if you're a crazy person, you want to say crazy. If you're a cool person, you want to say cool. If you're a calm person, you want to say calm.
Yeah.
If you're naughty, you want to say naughty.
Factors. But the house can make you do things that on a normal day you would not do. So it just be like, yeah. Because people need content, right? So they need to watch stuff and say, oh, okay, this is the reason why I'm going to vote for this person. Yeah, so you have to give them the content.
But isn't that the reality, when you set that against the context of what we say about how the true person flows out when they hit a bump? So when, the environment in the house is a test, it brings out the real person. So have we been seeing the real persons as well?
Yeah, well, true. Yes, you guys have, but sometimes people actually try to give content, So if you notice, some people, when they come out of the house, they just go completely silent because that's their own character. But when they were in the house, they were like very fun to watch, They had like a lot of characteristics and everything, and it was, this person is funny. This person made us laugh. Okay, for example, now I'll use one of my housemates, Diana. She sends Big Brother to buy salt from the market. But where's Diana now? She's just chilling in wherever she is and having a life of her time. So I feel like that's just it, It's not, you can't just really look at someone from the TV and feel like, oh, this is their life because I watch them on TV. So people might be really quiet. Miracle, for example, he won the money. Baba went back to aviation school. So, yeah, so there are just people with different characters.
So let's talk about your future.
Okay.
We want to separate you. Now to the future. We want to separate you from Big Brother.
Yeah.
Walk us through how that is going for you. So I don't even know where to put you now, how you compartmentalize yourself.
Okay.
Dancing, do you sing as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because we're curious about dancing. My producer really wants to know about the dancing.
About the dance part.
So I have to call her out because she's been on me.
Let's start with the fact that I'm multi-talented, and I like it because I can do many things, you get. But dancing comes naturally to me, right? How did I even start dancing? Probably in nursery school, they just played music one day. That time, Cisco was raining, and I just gave some moves. And teacher was like, what's going on here? I watch a lot of TV, and, I just study the dance moves. And I'm like, oh, wow. The next moment, I can already do everything. That's how easy dance is for me. So it's more of like a hobby than, an actual stuff I want to really push. But I love dancing, to be honest. It's one thing that I can do easily. And I can teach people also. So yeah, then the music thing is where I'm actually at. But music in Nigeria right now, if you're back, I can't fast. It's really hard to attain. But if you keep pushing, consistency is key. Yeah. So if you keep pushing, I love music though. I sing too. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Talented. Yeah. That's what I'll call myself.
So you're an all-around creative.
Yes, exactly.
So about the dancing, I noted that you said, it's just a hobby. And, we could pick out a few things from there. We can mention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10, superstar celebrities who are musicians, but not that much of a number when it comes to dancing. So do you find dancing limiting as a form of expression on a national, even a global stage?
It's not limiting. It's only limited in Nigeria. The fact that it's limited in Nigeria is because I don't know why Nigeria is like that, but we don't really appreciate our dancers as much as we should because, you know, these dancers bring challenges that everybody dances to, and, you know, it pushes the music so far. Without without dance, rather, there's no Afrobeats, to be honest. Like, it actually pushes Afrobeats. They come intertwined. So now, in Nigeria, I don't know why it's like that in Nigeria. The dancing industry hasn't really reached its peak. I've been thinking about some projects actually to do in terms with the dance industry, but like, you know, you need investors and whatnot. Now, if you travel to countries like Ghana, South Africa, we can name like 20 dancers that are already like very good, like blown and everything. But it's really hard to like pick up dancers in Nigeria. That's why I like the fact that TikTok really pushes, you know, the talents. Today, now, I can open TikTok and you see a dancer having like 1.something million views, and you're like, oh, okay, this is good. I want this dancer on my video. But it's not really appreciated like it should be, because there are so many dance steps that young Nigerian youths are creating today, and you see people dancing it and enjoying it. But who is the creator? They don't even know. Like, everybody's just dancing. Who did this shaku shaku? Some dances just come from places like Agege or Jota. You won't even know the originator, but like, it goes fast. So, but I feel like dance needs to be like utilized, and, you know. So
the dancers should be patenting their creative moves too.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Very interesting. One of my favorite sayings in life is, to whom much is given, much is expected. And much can be anything. It could be much money, it could be much exposure. Sometimes it even means much difficulty. You know, you take all of that difficulty, the experience, and you internalize it, you bring something good out of it, and then you give out that good. What am I saying? So you were given a platform of some sort, but you played your part as well. You brought out the personality, whether they think is real or not is another thing. And then you've been able to capitalize on it. But I wonder for you, what is the big picture? What is that big thing you want to be remembered for? When they say Eloswag, I want people to remember me for this kind of impact. What is it for you?
I think I want to be remembered for entertainment, to be honest. I want to be the person that you go to when you're kind of like depressed. You listen to my music or you watch me dance and you feel happy, because I see some comments, oh, this just brought me out of depression. And I'm like, I just did it like, you know, out of, oh, me, I was tired, or I just needed to create content. It's what makes me happy. So I feel like if I can impact you, I'll be happy also. So yeah, that's it for me. So if, God forbid, we pray for long life if I pass on, I want to be remembered as the person that made people happy, you know, and encouraged people and gave people motivation in whatever creative way they possibly can get from me.
Well, also in that house, there was the relationship part.
Okay,
you know.
Great.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not shocked.
No.
How will there be an interview and they won't talk about it, you know? And afterwards, shades were thrown, you know, this is what Eloswag will have been enjoying, this one, that one. So first of all, have you found a ship that you are currently inside and is sailing to the permanent site?
No, I'm good being single for now.
Why? Is it because
are you avoiding the breakfast because we heard that
because this is a breakfast show.
No.
You don't say
no. Not, I would actually normally eat breakfast, but you know, I don't think I found the one yet. You might think people you meet are the one, but you know, life just, you know, shows you that it's not your time. I think it wasn't your time, so yeah, that's it for me.
Do you feel pressured?
Pressured? No, never. No.
So all of
not by social media.
No, not at all. When it's my time, it's my time.
So Eloswag, this is where I'm going. All of the Chomsy, the Fina matter.
Yeah.
Are you over it?
Yeah, most definitely.
But it's something you wish you became a proper ship, maybe a luxury yacht. And
at this point, thinking about it, yeah. If it worked out, yeah. Yes, most definitely, but it didn't. So we move on with life, you know. Everybody has their own person, and I feel like they would find their own person, but not me.
Not you anymore. But you say you wish it had worked. So maybe, you know, sometimes,
if it had worked,
you know, you write some
fine.
exams and you realize afterwards, maybe when you're checking your result, I should have used this formula. So you have another chance to write that exam. You register for it. So that's what you want to register. You know, some people register for JAM once, twice, and then eventually they pass.
Okay.
Do you want to pick up the form again?
No, I'm good.
You're not seeking
sorry,
admission.
might I add, was that where the breakfast was served?
After the house. Or yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's where the papers were. It was a very large, portion of papers. Very, very big one.
They gave you an excess. But do you support relationship among popular people? Does it really work, or just for the?
If you're going to think about it, yeah. If you're dating a normal person that's not in the spotlight, it might be really hard for them to keep up because you get like a lot of fans, and if it's on the male side, there are a lot of female fans, right? And, there'll be a lot of distractions. You as the normal person will be like, I can't deal with this. But if you're with your same, entertainment person and you're dating, it's understandable. There are a lot of perks to it, to be honest. I don't really know people's mindset about it, but I feel like, yeah, if you're in the spotlight, you should date somebody that's in the spotlight. It's not really necessary. You could also date somebody that understands the fact that you're in the spotlight. So yeah, either way it works.
But what about the exposure that comes with it and, all of the consequences from that exposure? People go to dig up your past and, we can easily draw out examples from weddings that are on, that have been celebrated in recent times. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that is rather intrusive, perhaps if you were the one in the spotlight?
The thing with being in the spotlight is everybody's now your family member. People don't mind. People don't mind their business again. So, if you had done something way back in, even if it's 1970 or 1995, you're already in the spotlight. Your stuff is already on there, it's uploaded. Either you've had a relationship with somebody in the past and it was recorded and whatnot. If they find out, in fact, everybody likes gist. So if I'm a boy, it's just a thing that we
member.
Yeah, my family member, my brother just stole something. The whole family will know that my brother stole something. So yes, let's announce it so that we'll put him in one tight spot and yeah.
So just before we wrap up, what project are you working on? Where are we going there?
I think I'm going to start acting soon. I don't know, but yeah, at this point I'm getting some acting calls and whatnot. Then my music actually, so I've had some recorded, but I've not put them out. So yeah, at this point.
So looking forward to all of this big stuff. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Eloswag.
In closing,
you have to teach us a dance move. And there's one that has been quite difficult for a lot of people. Shwalabam.
Shwalabam, yeah.
Right,
Shwalabam.
So you're going to teach us the Shwalabam.
It is a Shwalabam.
Yeah, this particular one.
So do we get up and...
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So ladies and gentlemen, Eloswag is about to teach us how to do the Shwalabam.
Do we stay in the middle?
Yeah, you stay right here.
All right,
so be mindful, Bukola is wearing heels, by the way. And,
it's quite easy.
They're block heels, so they're not very...
What's the first thing you have to do?
Difficult to dance with.
Very simple dance step. We're starting with our legs.
No, you have to be in front so that we can see you.
Swag.
Okay.
So you have to be ready with your legs. So it's step back, step back.
Okay,
so
let's
step
go
back, step back.
Yeah. So while you're stepping back,
our hands, uncle.
Yeah, we'll get to that part. We'll get to that part. So step back, step back. Let's go.
Back, step
1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
So now your shoulder moves like this. So as if it's a jungle over going sideways, right?
Is it like this or like this?
So can you say the movements? So slowly, 1, 2, 1. So I really wish I was not wearing this jacket. You can see my shoulders very. So right. So but the hand is like this, right?
Okay. Is my shoulder even moving?
Like
an airplane.
An airplane.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go like this, right? So now from the leg part, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So now the hands. Hey. Let's go. Add your style. Enjoy the
Where's
dance.
the part where we go down?
Yeah, so you can go down with it. It's just like that. And
oh, I really can't.
Let's go. Down.
Ladies and gentlemen.
No, man. So you know what?
I need you to rate us. I need to watch us and rate us. So I think
5, 6, 7, 8. Hey. Okay, he's getting it. She's almost there. Yeah, you're getting a little bit stiff, but So I'll give you guys like a 5 over 10.
That's you know what you did? You made me miss 50,000. No. There was a 50,000 on my head.
No, Charlie and I will share the 50,000.
Yeah, so that's better. So we collect from there.
Okay. So Eloswag, if people want to see our teacher, they want to see Eloswag just taught us the
Shwalaba.
It's been very tough, really, but we try to get a hang of it thanks to Eloswag. We'd like to thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the work you're doing, trying to get people out of depression and share that joy. And who knows, maybe you can find a way to link this to governance. We need a lot of that. So ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Eloswag on the show this morning. Dancer, actor, singer, what's that thing you said people don't know about? DJ, presenter, a lot of things. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Well, there you go. That's where we anchor on the show. We're going to obviously be doing a lot of Shwalabam after this. But Sunrise Daily is next. So stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And of course, there's been a lot of joy on the Eloswag side of things. And we're going to keep it that way when we bring you the next and the last episode of the program for tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bukola Koka.
I think I'll stick with my job while I try to learn what I can learn. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Ozobo.